and we're going to start on all fours. But before we get going with that, if you can, sit quite comfortably with your bottom back on your heels. If not, then just sit on the floor and let's just get hands going. So fingertips really doing what I call sea anemones. So moving all around, and I want you to feel as you start to do this and do it really quite strongly. I want you to feel that the forearm, both sides, top and underneath, feel quite warm and quite, what's the word? Just tired almost. Yeah. So circle the wrists around, because we're going to do a little bit of work on all fours, and we just want to stress those wrists, get everything woken up with the hands. Okay, so then let's come on to all fours. Put my mat at a slightly jaunty angle. So knees underneath the hips, hands underneath the shoulders. Just going to tuck my top in. Good, your spine in its natural curves, and let's take some horizontal spine circles. So we're circling the body around, and my goal here is to stress my wrists and my hands and my fingers, and I've really got fingers and thumbs spread far apart here. Circling around, just getting everything warmed up a little bit, both directions. And then let's take some vertical spine circles. So if I face forwards, that means your ribs are going to go to the side, they're going to go up, they're going to the other side, they're dropping down, sort of swinging past the floor. I'm going to have to put my mat back square for this one, otherwise it's all out of sync with my angles. And then changing direction, so ribs to the side, ribs to the top, to the other side, let them swing down. From the side, that looks like this. So mobilising the rib cage, letting it move around as much as possible within the framework of your body, if you like. Wonderful. Let's take the hips back towards the heels and just see how this feels. Oh, first rhyme of class. Hips back towards the heels and then come forwards. In fact, I'm going to take my hips back, I'm going to stretch my arms forwards a little bit. And then I'm coming up and over and just allowing the hips to drop through. And taking them back and allowing them to drop through. Not going too crazy here, just check your breathing is steady. Time your breathing with the movement maybe. Stretching back and sort of unravelling that spine as you come through, up and over. Just allow the hips to drop down. Great job. We're going to shorten one side of our torso. So you're shortening one side. I'm bringing my hip bone to meet my ribs on that side, and then to the other side. My shoulders are staying quite still. So again, from the front, can't really see much change in my shoulders. A little bit, but not too much. And then add to this, so from above you're creating a curve, a longer curve on one side, a shorter curve on the other side. You turn your head to look at your hips a little bit as well. So just stretching down the side seam of your back. And then, let's now from all fours, drop the hips from side to side. Now I'm taking my hips in a straight line from side to side. And my shoulders are going a little bit as well. And actually, if I keep my shoulders, you can't quite see because I've got a black top on and black leggings there at that point. So I'm not twisting, I'm not shortening, I'm not changing the length of either side of my torso. I'm just taking my hips from side to side. Quite a nice stretch on the outside of your hip there. Then let's take the Feet together, toes together, knees nice and wide, stretching all the way back. And if you can't get your hips all the way back and you need to come down onto your elbows, that's absolutely fine, just staying there. But just stretch the arms away and then take a slightly mad sway from side to side. Breathing steadily, focus, be aware of your breathing, make sure you're not holding your breath. And if you think about, if you're a regular to my classes, how we mobilise when we're standing up. This is the same thing. We're mobilising on the floor, just using the floor to take that lovely movement, go to the ends, and then let's walk the hands round, or the elbows round, until you feel a very strong stretch on the side seam of your torso, the side you've stretched away from. Hold it there a moment. It's like a burning stretch. It's not very pleasant. Hold it there a moment until that eases off a little bit, and then lift and lower just the upper back, just between your shoulder blades. I call this back pops. You're just lifting and lowering, getting a little bit of movement in there, and then walk around to the other side with your hands or your elbows. So the legs stay really still, hips are back on the heels as far as they can be. You'll find that biting point for that stretch, all down that side seam. Hold it a moment, wait until it eases off a tiny bit, and then lift and lower, breathing. As always, we're trying to get some mobility in that rib cage spine, just stretching everything out. Last thing here, let's take a little rotation. So the back arm, thread it through underneath your front arm, turn your head to look towards the camera and the screen. You could, if you're comfortable here, have a little roll over the shoulder. See if you can rest your head down. You might not be able to, that's absolutely fine, just do what you can. The idea is to rotate your upper body, swapping sides, thread the other arm through. Once you get that arm through, stretch both arms away a tiny bit more. Get the lovely length, a little bit tighter on me on this side, for me on this side. I can still manage a bit of moving around though. Oh yeah. And coming back to the centre. Great job. We are going to bring our feet and knees together. Pop my mat back this way. So hands still underneath the shoulders. Hands nice and, fingers and thumbs nice and spread apart. This time bring your feet and knees together. I think I'm going to tuck this t-shirt in at the back as well. It's all going on today. Maybe a bad choice of outfit. Okay, so we're here. So feet and knees together. We're going to push the shins down into the floor, and you're going to tuck your pelvis under, really rounding your back. And then staying in that rounded position, take your hips back towards your heels. Then unravel and come forwards, and for the moment just go past, just take your shoulders, the fronts of your shoulders past your fingertips, so you're quite a way forwards. There's quite a lot of stress on that wrist. And then tuck under again. As you go back, take a breath out and a breath in. As you unravel, go a little bit further this time, see if you can bend the elbows. When you start to bend the elbows, we're taking a narrow press up, going back again. I really need you to tuck those elbows in to your ribs. You don't have to go as low down as I'm going, but absolutely make sure, so from the front, as I'm coming forwards, those elbows are tucking in, they're not out here. That just feels really vulnerable on my shoulder, and I haven't got any support. If I tuck my elbows in, I've got all the support, and also my elbows make contact with my ribs, which feels quite good. So, tucking under, nice breath out, breath in, and a breath out to come up, or some other variation, but make sure you're breathing quite deeply. The best part of this for me is the out breath as you go back. So here, a lovely out breath is with those hips really tucked under. And then coming forwards. We're going to add on a Garuda. This is Garuda Press-ups. We're going to add on a Garuda heart opener, or a diamond star is what I've named it. Yeah. So from here, you're going to tuck, just watch me for one. You're going to tuck your pelvis under, you're going back. You're unravelling forwards, taking that press up. Then once you've straightened your arms, you're going to take your feet, and only your feet, away from the camera. You're going to tuck your pelvis under, you're rocking back. So now we've got a much stronger stretch down this side. And then you're coming over, forwards and over, exactly like you just did. But now you're going to put all the weight onto that back hand, get your shoulder over the hand. Then think about, and that back knee is already released, think about stacking the shoulders, one on top of the other. As you open up the knee, open up the arm to the ceiling, and then we're going to stretch that arm overhead. You're looking into the palm, and we're unravelling back, bringing those knees together again, and then we take one more stretch back before we come back to the start again. So from here, feet and knees together, push the shins into the floor, tuck the pelvis under. Hips towards the heels, unravel through the spine, get that weight really over your fingertips, tuck the elbows in. Take your feet away from the camera, tuck the pelvis under, stretch back, breathe out. Breath in as you come forward, shoulders over your hands, and then go over the back hand only, shoulder over that hand, looking down. The knee will release, stack your shoulders one on top of the other, reach that arm up to the ceiling, drive the hips forwards. Now stretch the arm up and over, look into the palm of your hand. Continue to roll that around, knees comes together as the hand goes down. Stay in that shape for one last stretch back, and into the centre to bring your feet back into the middle. Let's go again. Tuck under. And stretch back, rolling through it. Tuck the elbows in. Take the feet this time towards the screen. Tuck under. Beautiful breath out. Come forwards, get all the weight onto that other hand, shoulder over the hand, the knee releases, stack the shoulders, lift that arm up to the ceiling. Continue to lift it and stretch it towards the wall. Look into the palm of that hand. Continue to circle that arm around. Fingertips touch the floor. I'm resisting a little bit. Knees together. Stretch back. Breath out if you can. Into the middle. We're going to do one more each side. Here we go. Tuck under, breath out. Unravel. Take your feet away from the camera, tuck under, breath out. Enjoy this luxurious flowing movement, shoulder above the hand, shoulders stacked, reach up, maybe open that arm out a little bit more. Now take it up and over, push the side ribs up towards the ceiling, reach around, knees together, hand down. Stay there for that last stretch back. Feet in the middle, last one. Here we go. Tucking under, breath out. Breath in. Feet towards the camera. Tuck under. Try and flow with the movement all the way through. Don't stop. Lift the knee, lift the shoulders, lift the arm. Open up a little bit more. Now stretch it across, push the side ribs up towards the ceiling, look into the palm of that hand, continue to let it unravel, knees together, hand is down, stay there for that last stretch back, and bring the feet into the middle. Woo, well done, lovely. Okay, let's come to sit forwards and nice and upright on our mat. So, thinking about our sit bones. So sitting as upright as you possibly can, and just have a little rock from side to side like I've done. I want you to really be aware of where your sit bones are in contact with the floor. And then we're going to take the hands underneath the backs of the knees. Feet and knees are hip width apart. The spine is in its neutral, natural curves. From here, we're tucking under, we're scooping that tummy. Scoop, 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 as much as you can. But what I want you to really think about here is, yes, we're scooping the tummy, we're tucking the pelvis under, but think about where the weight is in the floor, at your hips. So now my sit bones are nowhere, they're not involved at all. I'm right back past my sit bones, way behind my sit bones, almost on my sacrum. I am on my sacrum really. And then I'm going to stay rounded in this shape. Shoulders are over the hips, and then I'm going to lengthen the spine up towards the ceiling, and I'm back right on top of those sit bones. Crown of the head is lifted. Let's do that again. So tuck the pelvis under. Don't think about going back with your shoulders, just round the back. Create a beautiful C curve. Elbows lifted but shoulders down. Comes right up into the top of the head. So once you've created that shape, then go back a little bit, just a little bit, to the point where you can tap your feet. We're going to come to that in a moment. But stay there, come forwards again, rounded, shoulders over the hips, above the hips, lengthen the spine, you're back into your C curve. Now we're going to lift the chest up towards the ceiling. I'm trying to stay equally weighted on my sit bones. I'm using my arms, I can straighten my arms out and go quite a way back, but it's just in that upper body. So the shape I'm thinking of making there, and then I'll come back to a neutral, is a little R. So we're creating a capital C. Let's go, scoop that tummy under. And you should be quite happy balancing here. Round forwards, shoulders above the hips. Then sit tall. Imagine your double S of your neutral spine. Then we're going up and back, lifting the chest. You might not get your arms straight, that's fine. Just use them to hang on to the backs of your knees to help. Come up through neutral. Brilliant. One last one, into that rounded C curve. This time let's bring our feet and knees together. So this would be our position for rolling like a ball, but today we're not going to do that. We're going to stay here. Feet and knees together, toes pointed if you can. Just extend one leg and the other leg. So hopefully this should be relatively easy because we're tucked under in that pelvis. So we haven't got to think about hamstring length, which means that I'm looking for, if you were in class with me, a beautiful straight leg and a beautiful pointed foot. Elbows lifted but shoulders down. The whole spine is rounding. For the first time this year, I'm actually perspiring at this stage in class. So much hotter today. Okay, knees and feet are together. We're going to take both legs extending. Keeping that tummy drawn in. Balancing on the sacrum. 4 or 5 of these, maybe 6, and let's take the last little challenge. Keep those legs straight, keep those feet pointed, take the hands away. Palms are up towards the ceiling. Good, and feet down. Well done if you were able to do that all the way through. Have a little slump over those legs, just whatever feels right. Maybe have a little bash of the legs. Can get a little bit grippy in the hip flexors there. Okay, so we're into seated tricep dips to start with, and then we're going to take some bridges. Whew. Really am very hot today. Okay, so bending the legs, hands behind you with your fingertips facing forwards. And we're going to lift the hips up slightly. Let's just lift the hips up slightly to start with and then lower the hips. If you're great with your tricep dips and you're quite fit in that area and you're used to training your triceps, get your hips up all the way into a nice bridge. But otherwise, just lifting the hips up probably will be enough. Make sure the fingertips are facing your hips, facing forwards. So with the hips up, we're going to attempt 3 sets of 10. So bending the elbows only. Because I bend the elbows, my hips lower to the floor. It's not this. That's a very different movement. My arms aren't moving. You bend the elbows, then your hips happen to lower. Obviously, if your hips are up higher, it's going to be harder. I don't know how many I've done, about 6, another 4. I reckon 4, 3, 2, 1, and sitting upright. And this is where it feels really nice to give yourself a little relaxed hug, sort of. So arms are rounded, back is rounded, just leaning forwards, and breathe. I'm going to have to get my fan down for next time. So let's go again. Fingertips facing forward. So if that was too much with the hips up, try with the hips up again. If it was relatively easy, try with your hips up even higher. If it was really too much, you can have your hips down. But try and do another set with those hips up. Here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And rest. So just while we're having a little rest, just roll your shoulders around. Think about the stuff I've been doing in class lately. I want you to be aware of the backs of your arms, your triceps, the muscles that we're just working. And also this side seam and your sort of armpit, so that when we do our armpit hug for our abdominals, this is the area that you're thinking about. When we pin those arms into our sides, opens up the collarbone nicely. That's what we're working on. I'm going to leave the third set here because we're going to try some bridges from here. So this is now the focus is not on your triceps, it's just on getting those hips up in the air. So we can turn the hands sideways to face out sideways. Put some nice weight through your feet and knees hip width apart, and then drive down through the feet, switch the buttocks on, lift your hips up and lower. Lifting your hips up. Keep your head quite relaxed, keep your neck quite relaxed, just looking forward. You might want to look up a little bit, but don't let the head drop back. Keeping that collarbone nice and open if you can. So pushing down. And we're going to return to this movement at the end of class. Not specifically this movement, but just building your confidence in being able to move around on the floor quite happily on all fours. So at the moment we've got both hands and both feet down. Let's change that up slightly into have a little rest again and come back to your sea anemones. This is why we did this at the beginning of class as well. Circle those wrists, strong work on the wrists, but we're only lifting our own body weight. We should be able to do this stuff. Get those hands nice and warmed up. So keeping the legs where they are. Take one hand behind you, and I'm going this way just so that you can see, and I'm going to place that hand behind me in the middle of behind my spine, in the middle of my mat, and it opens up my shoulders. And then we're going to take a 3-point bridge. So the idea with the 3-point bridge, and again you don't have to take a very big movement. If you're a little bit worried about it, just see if you can lift the hips up slightly. Fingertips facing away this time. So if you can, the idea is to get those hips up, but the hips are nice and square, but the collarbone and everything is open, and maybe reach that arm up towards the ceiling. Coming all the way back down, just tuck the elbow into your tummy, reaching up, and there. Maybe just 3 or 4. Adding on to that if you want to, make it a little bit harder. Follow that thumb past your head and look and reach up into the corner. So go up and over. And this is quite strong work on the shoulders. Building a little bit of strength and stamina. Let's try the other side. So hand behind you in the middle, feet, fingers facing behind you in the opposite direction to where we were earlier. This is my weaker shoulder, so I'm just going to test it out a little bit first. Yeah, feels good so far. Just do what you can, don't go crazy. It's quite nice to turn your head and look down. It just helps you to open up those shoulders. Think about the hips staying square. I'm going to go a bit bigger now, all the way up. So pushing down through the feet, knees in line with your toes. I'm going to take some bigger up and over ones now. break. Fan yourself. And let's finish off with that last set of tricep dips. So for this one, I'm going to be kind to myself today. I'm going to keep my hips down. If you're feeling strong, we've already done quite a lot of work so far. Lift those hips up again, but I'm just going to take my fingertips forwards, and I'm really going to focus here on bending the elbows and letting them move back. So elbows are moving back. My torso is only moving back because I'm bending my arms. This can be done much more easily on the edge of a chair or a wall or something where you can let your fingers drop down. So if you're really struggling with the hands flat on this one, try that. Another rhyme. Full of them today. Excellent. Okay, we are, I think, coming down onto the floor. Yes, we're going to have a little rest on the floor. We're going to calm the body. So rolling down, hands at the backs of the knees, take that C curve all the way down to the floor. And when I say rest, we're actually going to settle our spine on the floor, on the mat if you can, if you've got a yoga mat. Maybe close your eyes a moment and let's just think about the body. Let's work our way up from the feet. Think about the relationship that your body has right now with the floor. So closing your eyes. The feet, equally weighted. So feet and knees hip width apart. So what I mean by equally weighted is feel all the way round your feet. So big toe joint, little toe joint on the ball of your foot, and then your heel. Those 3 points are equally weighted on both feet, and also you're aware of the rest of the contact. Maybe not your instep, obviously, because that hopefully will be lifted a little bit, but otherwise you're aware of the weight all the way around the outside edges of your feet, and they're equal, and they're nice and heavy in the floor. Then bring your awareness to your pelvis, and for me, whenever I'm doing this sort of thing, I like to have a bit of a wiggle about. I have a bit of a wiggle about, just a movement around, maybe some very small pelvic clocks, because then I can find my neutral. If I just try and relax straight into it, and especially when you've been working quite hard. We've been working quite hard with those muscles, so everything will be a little bit tense. So I want you to think about either side of your spine, both sides of your pelvis being equally weighted. One side will probably naturally be a little bit lifted. Feel, maybe look at your hip bones. Are your hip bones and your pubic bone, are they on the same plane as each other, so you're in a good neutral? Are your hip bones, your ASIS bones, are they level with each other, or is one slightly higher than the other? Feel the amount of lower back curve you've got. I've got quite a big lower back curve, but I know I'm in neutral because of this position of these bones on the front. Now bring your awareness to your ribs at the back. So for me, when I've been working quite hard and I first lie down, I'm actually a little bit lifted, a little bit flared at the ribs at the front. My ribs below my bra strap, so the bra strap line, the end of your shoulder blades. We can all talk about bra strap line, even though, guys, I know you don't wear one. Well, maybe just at weekends. But so that bra strap line, below that, those ribs tend to be a little bit lifted, a little bit flared. Allow them to relax, allow them to soften, but equally don't let that change the shape of your lower back, your pelvis. So it's the lowest ribs. They should just be brushing the floor, and that for me is always an area where I know I'm holding tension when I first lie down. Feel the ribs at the front, the floating ribs at the front. They should be nice and relaxed. Heavy. Feel the ribs at the back, relaxed. Feel the shoulder blades equally weighted. Your handedness side will probably be a little bit lifted. Try and just be aware of that. It's not the end of the world. We're all wonky, as you know, but just be aware of it. Again, have a little wiggle about. See what can you do to try and relax that tighter side a little bit more. Think about your collarbone being open, nice and parallel to the floor. Think about the backs of your shoulders, the seam of your t-shirt top, the back of that rounded part of the top of your shoulder. See if you can open it out a little bit. And when I do that, I quite like to put the backs of my hands on the floor and turn my palms up. It just feels quite nice to me. Feel like the shoulder blades are as flat as you can get them on the floor. Feel that your arms are heavy and relaxed, the whole of your arm. There's no tension. You might be a little bit aware of those triceps, and that's great. So collarbone nice and relaxed and parallel to the floor. Think about the feel, the nape of your neck. Quite a big curve there. We're never going to be able to push, we're never going to be able to flatten that curve into the mat. That wouldn't be right. But we can try and lengthen it. And then think about the back of your head as it is in contact with the mat. The middle of the back of your skull, the bulky part of your skull, the bit that sticks out the most. And then try and go to the lower end of that, not the top end. That's the top end for me. It means my chin is slightly lifted. If I tuck my chin in, I try to lengthen that curve. And then I'm just sort of on the lower end of the back of my head. Okay, perfect. We are all good. Let's use the weight through the feet to push down into the floor. Let's take a peeling bridge all the way up to the top. So pushing down through the feet, which creates a reaction in the spine. Push the waistband into the spine. Push every single vertebrae into the floor before you peel it off, gradually, step by step. Get those hips up as high as you can. Activate the buttocks. Pubic bone up as high as you can. Try and open out the front of the hips. Take the arms up and over to the floor behind you. Leave them there, but with the arms quite straight. Imagine you're hanging on a bridge. No, hanging on a branch. Bridge is the exercise that we're doing. And so we're going to reverse peel down. So as we reverse peel down, push the ribs at the front into the floor. Use the muscles at the front of the body to push the muscles at the back of the body into the mat, including that lower back. Release out to neutral and then bring the arms up and over. Let's do that again. So let's take the breathing as well. Big breath in to prepare. Breath out as you go all the way up. Hips nice and high. Breath in, take those arms up and over. Keep the shoulders drawn down in your back. Breath out as you reverse peel down. Rib cage connecting. Push every single vertebrae. Release to neutral. As you bring those arms up and over, draw the shoulder blades down in your back. Wipe the ceiling with the palms of your hands. Connect at those armpits all the way down and come back down. Brilliant. Let's take some more bridging movements, but we're going to stay up in the bridge this time. So let's peel to get all the way up there. Holding it here. If you wanted to work a little bit harder here, you could have your arms up to the ceiling, palms facing each other. Otherwise, just keep your arms on the floor and maybe just push those backs of your shoulders into the floor a little bit. Watch that the ribs don't flex. So hips up as high as you can. Holding this here, we're going to lift one heel and place it down 5 times. Make sure that you're rolling to the big toe side of your foot more than the little toe side. Otherwise your ankle is going to roll out towards that little toe side. It's actually giving me cramp in my calf as well, which is quite nice. Our goal is to keep the hips absolutely still, swapping sides if you can. And this is quite a nice thing to do as well. Put your elbows into the floor, just lightly touch your fingertips to your hip bones and notice whether there's any change. There shouldn't be any change. Think about that foot rolling through the big toe joint more, or between your big toe and your next toe actually, your flip-flop line. And then reverse peeling all the way down, or you can come back down in a straight line. We're going to work much harder from here. So, going up to the top again. We're going to stay up and we're going to stay on one side again. So I've just realised that what I did the first time was I lifted the heel on so that I was working my good side first, my strong side first. I need to lift the other leg. So you know which side hopefully is stronger or weaker. The leg that stays on the floor is the one that's doing all the work. So I'm going to lift my other leg this time. We're going to take 5 knee folds. Peel the heel off, lift the leg into a knee fold, toes back down, put the foot down but don't put any weight through it. Try and stay balanced. Lifting into a knee fold on one side. This is tough. The leg that stays on the floor, as I said, is the one that's doing all the work. Now it's quite handy as well to put your elbows in the floor, lightly touch your fingertips. Notice you might want to push your elbows into the floor a little bit just to help you stabilise, or if you wanted to really work hard, elbows out to the side, so you're making that leg do all the work. I think that was 5, I'm not quite sure. I'm going to swap sides. So this is my stronger side, so I'm going to challenge myself a little bit more. I'm going to lift my heel off into that knee fold position. I'm going to keep my elbows off all the time. You could have elbows into the floor. You could have your arms on the floor. Try and open up that collarbone. Remember your knee fold position, perfectly perpendicular. Get me? Knee directly above the hip. And lowering, no weight through it, no shifting. My hips are staying absolutely still. Staying up if you can. It gets harder. We're going to do 2 more exercises on one leg. Lift the leg into a knee fold, straighten the leg up towards the ceiling. From here, I'm going to place my hands down on the floor now. I'm going to have the backs of my hands on the floor so I can open up my collarbone a little bit. I'm going to lift toes 5 times up towards the ceiling, lifting that straight leg. Ooh, I've got a cramp. Up towards the ceiling. Then I'm going to lower that straight leg to the floor, lower my hips to the floor and lift everything up for 5. So this, my right leg is working super hard now. Hips staying level. It's not a great big kick. It's a lift and lower, a controlled lift and lower. I think I've done more than 5. Anyway, I'm going to bend that knee in, place that foot down. That now becomes the working leg. Fold the other knee in, extend that leg up towards the ceiling. Beautiful straight leg, beautiful pointed foot. Pulse on that working side at your gluteal fold. 5 times. Taking your toes up towards the ceiling. Got cramp again. Woo. So we need to do some footwork today. And then lower the hips, lower the leg, lifting up to the ceiling. Lower and lift, try not to kick. Control everything through that working side. Hips parallel. Last one for me. Placing that foot down, I'm just going to take a nice relaxed release, and then for me I really want to just hug my knees in and have a little roll around with the knees and the thighs, massaging my lower back on the mat. That feels exactly what I'd like to do. But do what you want to do. Don't necessarily listen to me with that sort of thing. Do what comes naturally to your body. Okay, here we go. So abdominals. They're thinking about those armpit hugs that we've been working on recently. So feet and knees hip width apart. Hands are at the back of the head. Elbows are out, completely out on the sides. So I just want you to take a breath in with your elbows on the floor. And then as you take your breath out, you're going to slide your shoulder blades down on your back. Connect your rib cage to your hips at the front. Hug yourself with your armpits as you bring those elbows forwards and up to the ceiling, and just allow your head to hover off of the floor. That's your out breath. And then your in breath, lower the head, allow the elbows to come all the way out. Maybe allow your ribs to flare a little bit, just for this part of the exercise. So you're allowing the lower ribs, front ribs to flare. Breath in, breath out. Hug everything in. Just hover your head. Make sure your head is completely relaxed.
I'm not trying to come up into an abdominal curl. I'm lowering the head, opening up, breath in. Expand the rib cage and breath out. Shoulder blades, ribs, armpits. Those three things. Head is just hanging. And opening out. Okay, this time we're going to keep the elbows in that position. So bring the elbows in and we're going to stay switched on all the way through. So I've brought my elbows in, I've connected my rib cage to my hips at the front, lower back absolutely in its good natural neutral position. Rib cage connected, armpits engaged, shoulder blades slid down your back. I am set in my upper body. Now I'm going to take a really nice, strong, controlled abdominal curl. Clearing my shoulder blades, but you don't need to come up too high, remember. The relationship, we're going to open up this elbow, the relationship between my chin and my chest doesn't change. My head is heavy. Because I've set everything around here, set the ribs, I've set the armpits, I've set the shoulder blades down in my back, and then my position of my hands and my arms are supporting my head. That's it, job done. Okay, let's add on to this. So this should be breath out, breath in. Sorry, I wasn't doing that, I was talking way too much. Breath out, breath in. We're going to add on. Breath out, lift into a knee fold at the same time with one leg. Lower breath in, we're swapping sides. Breath out, breath in. Breath out. Be really accurate with that knee fold. Absolutely don't let it come in too far. Otherwise your lower back shape is going to change. Make sure you're clearing your shoulder blades though, every single time. Breath out, breath in, breath out, breath in. Adding on. Knee fold, breath out, extend the leg, breath in. Hold it there, breath out, draw that knee back into a knee fold, try and get a tiny little bit extra height and lower, breath in, swapping sides, knee fold and abdominal curl, breath out, extend the leg, breath in, thighs are level, knees are level, draw the knee back into a knee fold, lift a little bit more and lower. Breath out and breath in, that bit was. Let's do 4 more of these. Breath out, knee fold, same time. Breath in, extend, hold it. Breath out. Breath in, lower everything. Swap sides, breath out. Breath in, leg extends. Breath out, try and get a tiny bit more height. Breath in to lower, 2 more, here we go. Breath out, breath in, breath out, breath in, last one, breath out, breath in, breath out, a little bit more height, breath in and lower. I'm not sure we're supposed to be making quite that much noise. Have a little relax, maybe hug those knees in. Oh, extra lift. Okay, tabletop legs. How are we doing for time? Oh, we're good, we're good. Legs into tabletop. Yeah, so let's lift one leg at a time into a tabletop position, or a double knee fold if you like. So I quite like to have my hands at the back of my head here and my elbows on the floor, because it just gives me a little bit of extra ballast when I'm in this position, because we're going to move the lower legs. But the main thing about this is keeping switched on in your lower abdominals. So we've just very much worked on the upper abdominals, but use those upper abdominals to keep everything switched on there, which is going to keep your pelvis in exactly the right position. So from here, think about the angle of your legs. So don't let them change. You've got your legs in a cage and you can't straighten them. You can't bend them anymore at the knee. They're going to stay at this 90-degree angle, and you're just going to lower your toes to touch the floor. Dip your toes in the water like you're testing the temperature of the water. with absolutely no change in that torso whatsoever. I'm working really hard to keep my rib cage connected, to keep my lower back in its neutral, my belly button is drawn in, pelvic floor is lifted. The only thing that's changing is the leg hinging from the hip. That hinge is opening out and the leg is coming back in. Good. If this is too much for you, if it feels like as you lower the leg, your lower back starts to arch and you lose control, go from the floor upwards. So just take a knee fold and lower, and a knee fold and lower. That's an easier variation. If you can, add on to this by switching. So we're alternating. As one is coming up, the other one is coming down. I'm working really hard to keep those shoulder blades down, slid down in my back. Rib cage drawn to my hips at the front. Pelvic floor lifted. My lower back is in its natural curves. No change in the angle, the shape of my legs. Good. Adding on to this a little bit, if you want to. Bring your feet and knees together. From here, again, we're not going to change the shape of our legs. If you wanted to, because this is a little bit harder, imprint your lower back, please do. So that means my lower back at the moment is in neutral. I'm tucking my pelvis under, pushing my lower back into the floor in order to take a double leg lower. And this you only go as far as you can without changing the shape of anything, without changing the shape of your torso. So that lower back stays pushing into the floor. We're just opening up again at the hip here. This is much, much stronger. So and it's actually really, it's quite tough to stay imprinted. I'm working hard on that upper body as well. So this could be done with straight legs even harder because you've got that longer lever. There shouldn't be any bunching or doming in your abdominal wall. It's very difficult not to let that lower abdominal wall switch on, but try not to let that happen. Good, okay, finishing off here. Let's bring those arms down by side. Keep the legs up in the air, or bring the legs back up in the air if they weren't already. Draw your knees in as much as possible. This is called a lower body toner. This is from a scoliosis course that my Pilates teacher did. It's really nice work. It's all about just fine-tuning your internal muscles, your deep stabilising pelvic floor, etc. So we're going to push the knees together. You're going to draw your knees in as much as you can so your lower back is pushing into the floor. Use the muscles to also push your lower back into the floor. Just find your sit bones with your hands. I can only just about do that because my torso is quite long, but find your sit bones with your hands. You're going to draw your sit bones towards each other. Switch those muscles on. Lift your pelvic floor. Push your lower back into the mat. Squeeze your knees together, so internally rotating. Also squeeze your feet together. And we're just going to take slowly, we're going to take 10 counts to keep all of that squeezing and working as we slowly lift the feet up towards the ceiling. We're not trying to straighten the legs, we're just lifting up, and everything for me has already started to quiver a little bit. And then we're slowly lowering the feet. Keep everything there. It's strong work. Keep those knees squeezing together, sit bones sliding towards each other, pelvic floor lifting, and again, lifting up. So 3 sets of roughly 10 counts. I'm not really counting, but I'm trying to go at the same speed. 3 sets of 10, let's say 10 counts. 10 counts up, 10 counts down. Will help to build our endurance with these muscles. It's like the triceps. You can't just do 1 set and think, oh, that's it, job done, I've done my work there. You have to build this endurance. And releasing that and just letting the legs have a little swing from side to side. Excellent. We are lying on our side in a straight line. I'm going to go this way, I think. So well, yes, let's start in a straight line. But so line yourself up with the back edge of your mat, if you have one, especially your spine. So spine is along the back line of your mat. You're going to bend your underneath arm in and rest your head on it, and then you're going to bring your legs into a 90 degrees angle. So spine is lined up with the back edge of the mat. Knees are in front of hips, feet are below your knees, and then just relax a moment. I don't know whether you can see, but I've got quite a big dip here where I've allowed the whole of my underside of my body is touching the floor, touching the mat. So, and what that means is that my spine is sort of doing this wiggly dip thing. What I want you to do is lift your spine up by pushing down on the underneath leg and this underneath arm so that you lift your waist away from the mat. I'm not sure whether you can see it, but I've got quite a big gap there. So shoulders are stacked, and actually I'm lifted away right up to my armpit. And now I'm imagining that my spine is this wonderful straight line down through the middle. So from pubic bone up through the middle, through the centre of my nose, to the centre of my head. And it's parallel to the floor, parallel to the floor. And that's where we want to work here. And then just rest this top hand in front, just lightly touching the floor. And we're going to keep the heels squeezing together. And from this position, we're just going to lift the knee. Again, this is from the scoliosis work. We're looking to straighten out the spine and work with a straightened spine as opposed to a wiggly spine, which is what scoliosis is. And you should be working quite actively on those underneath arm and leg, lifting everything up. Make sure this top hip isn't joining in with the movement of that leg. So squeezing these together. Then I'm going to lift and lower top leg on its own in a mirror image of the underneath leg. So my foot and my knee are lifting and lowering at the same time. So what I mean by that is the foot doesn't land in the knee or the foot lifts up. We're lifting and lowering, so I'm making contact with my underneath leg at the same time. Pushing down that underneath side. Really work hard to lift the waist, lift the ribs off of the floor. Continue to have that nice straight line. It means your hips are stacked as well. Great job. Okay, let's extend that underneath arm away, palm is up, extend the legs away. So now we're lined up on the back edge of the mat. Then bring the legs forwards, angle the legs forwards a sort of 45 degrees. Keep this underneath side lifted, exactly the same. Lift the top leg up, reach it back. So now we're in the straight line. Now it's in line with the back of my mat. Then go past that. First of all, just stretch past. So we're opening out the front of the hip. Watch this top shoulder stay stacked. Don't let it roll forwards. Lift that underneath waist. And then from here, we're going to draw a figure of 8 with our back foot. Great. So it's a small figure of 8. For me it is anyway. I can't really go too far. We're keeping that leg really behind our straight line. Straight line is there, the leg as far back as it can be. And then when you would quite like to stop, change the direction of your figure of 8. If this is getting a little bit necky, just turn your head to look down at the mat. That should release that. Think of lengthening the arm that's on the floor, the fingertips that's on the floor, away in the opposite direction to those toes drawing the figure of 8. I've lost my my concentration of which direction I was going then. Good job. Let's swap to the other side. So lining yourself up. your spine, your torso with the back edge of the mat. Bringing the legs forwards, knees are stacked, hips are stacked, feet are underneath, directly underneath the knees. Underneath arm bent. Make sure your head is just in its natural line. Be completely relaxed. This feels quite comfortable to allow your whole of the side of your body, and I want you to really try and make this happen, to let it be in contact with the floor. But then push down that underneath side. It makes you connect your ribs. It lifts everything up. So now I've got this lovely straight line. Imagine that straight line. Like you see when the adverts for the mattresses, where they straighten out their spine because they're in a memory foam mattress. So in this case, this is the straight line, and we've got to lift our body, use our muscles to get the spine also in a straight line. So pushing heels together, lifting that top knee. Noticing for yourself, does this side feel different? So this side for me is a little bit more flexible. I've got a bit more rotation in this hip. The other hip is my tighter side, but the other hip is also my stronger side. To come together. So pushing down this underneath arm, pushing down on that underneath, just the underneath side of your body to lift up, push down on that underneath leg. Work hard in all those areas. Keep the shoulder down away from the ear. Great. Let's lift and lower that top leg in a mirror image of the underneath leg. Nothing else is moving. Waist hasn't changed. Couple more. Wonderful. Let's straighten everything out. Extend the arms and the legs, arm and the legs. Bring the legs forwards, 45 degrees. Then lift the top one up and sweep it back. Holding that there. So I'm in my straight line now, and then I'm going to stretch that leg even further back. Pushing into that leg that's in front, pushing into that little toe side, trying to open out the front of this hip. Oh, cramp again. I know what I'm going to be doing as we get to the end of class any moment now. Some nice calf stretches. So that leg is really far back. Draw your figure of 8. Keep the leg back as far as you can. Keep the hips still. Watch this top shoulder doesn't round forward. It's very tempting to do so. Partly from a balance side of things as well. Great job. Changing direction of your figure of 8. If that neck is getting a little bit much, turn your face to look down at the mat. Okay for me on this side. And enough. Bend those knees in. Sit yourselves up. Wonderful. Okay, just to finish off, I wanted to return to our all fours position and just build up to moving around on the floor and getting that confidence in your body to be able to move around on the floor quite fluidly, but also just having a good old stretch as well. Yeah, so let's start from all fours. I'm going to go this way a little bit more actually, this section. So let's start from all fours, hands underneath the shoulders, knees and feet quite wide this time. So curling the toes under, just lifting those hips, pushing the chest back, bringing the shoulders over the hands, lowering back down to your knees. So lifting up, pushing back. So for me this is a lovely hamstring stretch, shoulder stretch, upper back, bending my toes over when I lower as well. That feels quite nice. And then
On your next one, so you could stay there, you could do any other variation you like, but I'm going to come up into that position with my hips nice and high, and then I'm going to start to walk my feet around. So every time I'm bending my knee and putting my heel back down again, I'm just getting a lovely calf stretch. And I'm going to just move around a bit more today. So I'm going to walk round to one side of my, keeping my hands pretty much where they are, walking round to the other side. Oh, and that feels so good. Maybe staying on the spot and just padding through those feet. Then if you can, walk your feet to your hands. Come into a crouch or maybe a deep squat. If you're good at your deep squats, then absolutely brilliant. Do that. Put the weight back into the hands, walk the feet back again. This time I'm going to walk my hands back to my feet. I'm going to attempt my deep squat. Oh yeah, nearly there. Actually that pretty much is there. But a little bit harder for me is there. Or come into a crouch. Maybe move from side to side. All I'm after is you just moving around, exploring what's going on in your own body. You could keep your hips up. You could just do a little bend there. You could immediately just come into a crouch if that's what suits you. From there, moving on into, so just carrying on with our stretches as we would normally do. So from your hips being up, in fact from a plank. So here's another one. Lifting your hips up, dropping the hips down into the plank. Hips up. Maybe as you drop your hips down, bring your foot forwards and then step it back, lift the hips up. Bring one foot forwards, lifting the hips up. 1 foot forwards, lifting the hips up. So again, stuff we normally do, we would move more from side to side. If you can, bring 1 foot forwards. Have the opposite hand on the floor, reach the same arm as the leg forwards, and then up and round for our lizard. Elbow down, forwards and up and round. Just 3 of these, maybe 4. I'm going to do 4 because it feels so good. There, up and round. I'm going to swap legs. Hand is pretty much level with the foot, stretching forwards, going up and round. Elbows forwards. I'm rolling over my toes a little bit. Reaching. 1 more. And then just to finish off, if you can and or you want to, have a little bit of movement around on all 4s. Try changing from your quadruped into your crab and turning and walking around and go the other way. Maybe walk forwards a little bit, twist it around. Maybe do some bear walks. Legs are straight, opposite arm and leg, forwards and backwards. Maybe thread one hand through. This is what we're going to work towards, threading one leg through even. Ooh. Just have a little bit of a play. And enjoy your bank holiday Monday if you're with me. Thank you so much for joining me. See you again soon.